squished together. We obviously have a few more hundred people come in, so we need to tighten this up a little bit. First off, obviously, thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate having you here. Again, my name is Troy Stein. I'm the Assistant Principal, Athletic and Activities Director here. And this is our first time where we've separated the Hall of Fame from what we've had as a gala. And this is our 5th annual induction class. So we're extremely excited to have all of you here and fully participating in the event. As I said, the excellence that we consistently strive for and how we embrace our community, and then have a day like today when we can honor and recognize our traditions. It's just it's a special part of everything we do. And to start off, I wanted to share a video with everybody that we put together last spring. And the video encompasses exactly what we talk about is that excellence and tradition and community. And so we're going to take just a couple minutes here, and we're going to watch this video, and then we're going to move on into the second part of the program. So, head coach there for over 19 years. He was our girls' outstanding passion for working with people and specifically with kids. Please join me in welcoming our MC, Mr. Bob Downs.
Thank you so much. The committee got it right. They do year after year. You 6 are up here because the committee got it right. We have a very diverse, yet so deserving group who are extraordinary. I said that I'm teaching the Civil War to my 6th graders, and I talked about the leadership of Robert E. Lee, and I said he's extraordinary. Johnny, isn't ordinary sort of like average? Aren't you telling us that he's kind of extra average? Well, I promise you, nothing average about these 6 people. They are, in the truest sense of the word, extraordinary. When I went in 1971 to Camp Leonard Wood to begin basic training in the United States Army, we had a 0 week, and they did KP, Kitchen Patrol, in alphabetical order. And so Downs came along on the 5th day of my 0 week. We started basic training then, and Downs came along on the 4th day of basic training. It came along in the middle, and on graduation day I had KP. My first AIT, KP, was on the 4th day once again. And then my second and third AITs, Advanced Individual Training, I had 4 more KPs. I had a friend by the name of Mike Zeeley. He had 2 KPs the whole time. So, I am not an alphabetical order type of guy. Arlene said to me, well, at least I get to get it out of the way and then just sit back and relax. I tell you, the 2 things you know is Arlene will not do it first, and Scott will not do it last. My father is being inducted, and I get to go give his induction speech. He passed away about 3.5 years ago, into his 3rd Hall of Fame. And it's up in Proctor, and they said, by the way, Bob, you will be the first speaker. And I said, why? Well, Downs comes first alphabetically. So, each one of these people has a nickname, as of today. These are the names that we are going to call up here. We're going to call up Silver Spoon, Virtuoso Pianist, Singer, Aggressive Beast, Midas, and Humble Pie. And at this time, we are going to begin with Humble Pie, Mr. Kurt Kasonis. Let me say a word about you, Kurt, first. I had the privilege of being at Chanhassen Elementary as an elementary teacher, teaching 4th grade when Kurt Katsonis was a 4th grade student at Chanhassen Elementary. And so I know Curdy, he's not Kurt Katsonis, he's Curdy. I know Curdy probably a little better than any of you, other than his relatives and friends here. There is no way in the world that any of us would have guessed that in 1996, he would have been the male long-distance runner of the year in the state of Minnesota, but there is not one of us that would have been surprised. He was a determined young man, but more than his determination, he was humble, unassuming, kind, thoughtful, treated every single student in the 4th grade with respect. There isn't a person that didn't find 4th grade at Chanhassen was a little better place to be because you got to be with Kurt Katsonis. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for Kurtie.
Wow, what a surprise. I'm not quite the speaker with these guys here, but I'd just like to say thank you, and it's a great honor. This is, I don't have a lot of words for this. Pretty surprised. But it's kind of nice seeing people I haven't seen for quite a few years. Scott, he was my coach for pretty much the whole time, except for one 7th grade year. And actually, there's Dan DiNardo's out here, and he remembers first year I came out for cross country in 7th grade. I have some memories of that. It's kind of neat to see someone from the start. Even though I was about half the size when I first started, and remember the days the older kids used to tie me up in my sweats because they didn't have them small enough for me, and kind of in a straitjacket and left me out in the field a few times just for fun. But maybe that helped my determination to run faster. So it was pretty fun. And besides the running, I did play some hockey, and Mr. Stallman was my coach. And so he saw me all year. That was fun. And other things, I used to play soccer in the summer, but since I ran cross country, I never got to play a sport with Mr. Downs. But great guy. I've always liked him, and I see him around now and then. Say hello. So, yeah, again, thanks a lot for everything.
When we say silver spoon, who we're talking about? A young lady who began at Chaska in the swim program. I don't think that's on your bio, Shannon. You know it's you. Did you write that on there? Are you continuing to swim today? Outstanding. So the carryover from Chaska High School oftentimes isn't known about everything. My son is a journalism major at the University of Minnesota, and I learned something about what Shannon has done and what she has put students through. It is an enormous task. It's an enormous task that keeps you up late at night, that keeps you rewriting, that keeps you questioning, but it keeps you coming back. Shannon wrote 2 books pretty much about her mother. Where's Flo? Where's Flo? There you are back there, Flo. I congratulate you for the influence you have had on your daughter. It's outstanding. And what Shannon has accomplished, I think, is just the tip of the iceberg of what we'll see in her life. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to present to you the one and the only Shannon Olson.
Yes, I need to thank both of my parents for not minding being in print. I feel like as a writer, first and foremost, I probably owe a debt of gratitude to my typing teacher, Merritt Henry. Does anyone remember Merritt Henry? Some people look forward to getting their driver's license. I know my sister was very excited to get her driver's license, but I was most excited to learn how to type, which I thought it was kind of a coming-of-age skill. And so I just was excited to learn how to type, and right away in 9th grade I signed up for typing class with Merritt Henry. And he would give us these typing tests. And there was a woman who sat, I was a scrawny little freshman, and she was a senior who sat across the aisle from me. And she was just beautiful, and she had enormous breasts and a really good-looking boyfriend. And she was the fastest typist in the class. She could type like upwards of 80 minutes, or 80 words a minute. And I just thought, if I can type as fast as Maureen, my life will take that same shape, you know? Because I would have arrived at some important point. And so when we did our time typing test, I would get really anxious, and just from the minute Merritt Henry said go, I would just start typing like I was on fire. And so I was typing with great fervor one day, and I must just have been exuding absolute panic, because all of a sudden I saw Merritt Henry's face pop up in front of me, and he grabbed me by the wrists and he said, "Calm down, child." Which I think turns out to be actually very good advice for a writer, to develop the long patience that it takes to write a novel, or to get your work published, and to become a writer, which is something that doesn't come with a guidebook. So I had a lot of teachers at Chaska from elementary school on who always encouraged my work in writing, and I'm really, really grateful for that. And there are a couple of moments that stand out in particular for me, and one is when I was in 9th grade, I had speech class with Mr. St. Germain, and we were to give a 5-minute speech on a topic that we felt passionate about. And so I meticulously wrote and rewrote my impassioned speech about acid rain, and I got up and started talking. And 12 minutes later, when I was done with my speech, I looked over and Mr. St. Germain was like, and he was pretending to snore. But he pulled me aside later, and he gave me an A+ on my speech, and he said, you know, you could do anything you want to do. And those little moments, I think that each of us have had with a teacher or a coach really stick with you, and they still come up for me on a bad day. And I also had a wonderful English teacher, Jan Baker, and she gave us a wonderful education in English, and she always encouraged me as a writer, and pulled me aside, you know, and said, you could make a living as a writer. And that was puzzling to me, but it gave me the confidence I needed to just keep at it. So I'm really, you know, knowing the number of accomplished people that come out of this high school, and I feel very honored to be recognized. And I'd like to thank Barry Fox, Barry, there you are, for nominating me. and Troy and Brenda for everything they've done to make this day just really beautiful. Thank you. And I also feel just really privileged to have grown up in a town where people are so supportive, people like Tracy Swanson, who've been a friend of the family for so long. And I feel like Tracy is probably single-handedly responsible, along with my parents, for the fact that my book was #1 on Amazon in Chaska for weeks and weeks and weeks, my first book. So thank you very much. I really appreciate this.
Our virtuoso pianist. You know Arlene, it's you, don't you? I had the opportunity of first getting to know Arlene when she kept sending talented, tremendous basketball players into our high school program. Arlene was a 9th grade girls basketball coach, and I think more than anything else, they came loving to be a part of our activity, because Arlene embraces every single person that touches her life. She makes every person that has any chance to be around Arlene feel like they're kind of special. And Arlene is also a part of the worship team at Valley Free Evangelical Church, where she plays the piano, and very well. Unless you give her music, she is a tremendous psychic piano player. She can do anything. Arlene is up here partly because of what she does and what is given to the school, but partly what she's given to the community. She is one of the people that does make Chaska the greatest place to grow up you could ever want to find. Arlene Borner.
Well, I've known for several days, several weeks that I needed to say something today, and so I wrote it down. And on the way here, I told my husband, I said, this is what I want to say, now let's just hope I say it. But thank you, Troy and Brenda, for the work that you've done and for the Hall of Fame committee. It is a lot of work, and I know that this is an exhausting week, and so thank you very much for all the work that you've done. And having never experienced something like this before, I thought I would go on YouTube and listen to some previous Hall of Fame speeches. And so I found Dale Welter's speech from last year, and it helped me a lot. It was long, but it helped me a lot. And I won't be that long. I'd like to introduce my family. They're very important to me and have really been sacrificial in their time and the time that I've spent away from them. My husband Bob is sitting down here, and Benji, my eldest son, is over in the corner there, and Lainey, hi Lainey, and Quinlan, hi there. And unfortunately they can't all be here today, but they are very important to me. And I'm humbled by the company that I share the stage with today. I've had all of you kids in school, and it has just been so cool. Karen, I remember you in junior high track, and she was just this, just a horse. I mean, she just ran. And I do remember that she would run the open 4, if I remember, and then I think probably the 4x400 relay, and then back in the day, the sprint medley was at the end, and the last run was the 400 run. She would run all of those 400 legs for us. And I can remember her, honestly, like being behind and just pouring it on. I just knew that at the 200-meter mark, she was just going to pour it on and come in first. And honestly, more than once, I can remember just tears coming down my eyes, thinking, look at that girl go. And, determination is just at the root of you, girl. Way cool. Curdy and Sam and Shannon, I've had you guys in school too. I've always admired you as students and what you've contributed to the student body and what you've done beyond too. It's just such an honor to share this with you. And then Scott, we've coached together, we've taught together for years, and I have such respect for him. His way of communicating with kids and his impersonation of the wonderful Marv Cook, which sometime you'll have to ask him to do. But it has been a pleasure. All of us have had opportunity, and that opportunity comes from a community that really values, it values service, it values education, and it values young people. And it's been so cool to be a part of that. And it's an opportunity that comes from a school that values tradition and excellence and community. Those are words that can pass by pretty quickly, but they're just, a lot of thought went into those words, and a lot of thought comes out of those words as well. And we've had opportunity because of families that have sacrificed and supported us and had 9 o'clock evening meals or gave up those weekends to go to a tournament or to a track meet or some kind of event. We've had an opportunity to serve, to compete, to achieve, to fail, to succeed. We've had all kinds of opportunities, and for 15 years I've had the opportunity to work with some of the outstanding leaders at Chaska High School through the Student Council. You know, the Student Council is one of those organizations that is kind of unsung. You know, we don't set any records, we don't have a win and loss record, we don't make the weekly press very often, but the kids in the Student Council really are those behind-the-scenes kids that showed up today to decorate the commons for us, and they are the kids that really have been the backbone of tradition at Chaska High School. And I'd like to read to you their mission statement. It says, "The Student Council is a student-led organization that strives toward building leadership skills, school unity, and increased positive student involvement in the school and community." And I think that's why I've just really been passionate about working with student council kids, because that's just the stuff that I believe in. And students are interesting. Tradition is important to them. I remember one example. We were setting up in the gym for coronation. We've had coronation a whole bunch of different places, but this time it was in the gym, and we were talking about how the king and queen and the students would enter, you know. And so we thought, well, let's mix it up a little. Let's have them come over there. It was like, no way. We are not going to have them come in. They've always come in this door, and they will continue coming in this door. And so those traditions, the way that it's always happened, it has been important to them. But we've also had all kinds of creative thinkers and have started new things like daddy-daughter dance. And then there have been a few things that, well, let's just say that they've been short-lived traditions, like smashing the car at homecoming, and then the pie throwing, although we did have a repeat of that, so maybe it's going to be a returning tradition, I'm not sure. And if you were to meet the presidents of these student councils from over the past years, you would meet a guy who is founding a global med organization at his college. You'd meet a young woman who spent time in Africa teaching kids. And you'd meet another gal who right now, at this moment, is in Thailand working particularly in the area of human trafficking. I mean, these are the kids that I've gotten to work with over the years, and it is absolutely wonderful. And all these students had opportunities here at CHS, and they were opportunities to grow, and I just want to thank you and the CHS community for that opportunity to be challenged, to find purpose, and to serve the phenomenal kids that are represented on the stage here and then that come through our doors every day. And thank you to the Hall of Fame committee for celebrating excellence, tradition, and community. God is good. Thank you.
I know every word. How in the heck did you do that? And he said, well, I was goalie for St. Louis Park. By the way, I don't know how Scott is ever in this whole world going to be able to talk for 5 minutes. I don't know if any of you have ever been to any of his end-of-the-year banquets. 5 minutes would be his introduction. I have a number of children that I have raised, and my one goal in life was to have them touched by Scott Stallman in any way they could. Whether it was in a Fayette class, whether it was in a sport, whether I could just bring them up and say, get to know Scott Stallman, because he'll change your life. You will never be the same. And so, my Bobby, the last one that came through, we made him go out for track, and Scott was working with the boys, but with the girls, I knew he would have contact with Scott. And Bobby would be the first to say, Dad, that was the best decision you ever made. Not because I started pole vaulting, but because, yes, I got to know Scott Stallman. My daughter Alex said, oh my gosh, Dad, that is one of the great men that I have ever had the chance to be around. Scott, you touch people. You care. You love them. You don't like them. It doesn't matter to Scott Stallman whether you are the star or the poorest athlete out. You're all the same. You're all equal. And if in life we could ever take a piece of what Scott Stallman gives everybody else, we would all be better people. I'm so honored to introduce to you Scott Stallman.
Before we give you the honor to speak, Scott recently retired from coaching the cross-country team, and the current coaches who worked with Scott along with the team. Unfortunately, we're not able to make it today. They are competing in Malacca. And as Scott said the other day, obviously, he's proud of that fact that they're competing today. But on the same hand, they wanted to send a message and give a message to Scott. So we have a short video that we're going to play on behalf of the coaches and the team.
Hi, my name is Chaska, and I'm the cross-country coach at Chaska High School for the boys, and I had the privilege of working with Scott Stallman for a number of years. I just wanted to relate a story in the celebration of Scott's career at Chaska that speaks to Scott as a coach, but also as a person. A few years back, it was the end of our cross-country season, we were having our team banquet, and I'm sure it's no different than a lot of team banquets. We celebrate the positives of the season, and we bring up kids. We do it by grade. We bring them up and we talk about the great things they did, some nice things about them as people, and the things we have to look forward to working with them in the future. And I remember, if you know Scott, let me just say, if you know Scott, you know he's a very careful and deliberate speaker. So what that means is sometimes our banquets got a little on the, shall we say, long side. And I remember this year in particular, there was only one 7th grade girl running for the cross-country team, and her name was Zoe Merrick. And I was off to the side waiting to speak about the boys, and I remember thinking, oh, at least this shouldn't take too long. You know, Zoe Merrick was a great kid, but she wasn't the top runner. You know, she wasn't on the varsity. And I thought, you know, he'll keep it pretty brief. But Scott Stallman talked for literally 10 minutes about this young 7th grade runner. And I was sitting there waiting, fidgeting a little bit, wondering how late I was going to be at this banquet. But then it struck me, what really makes Scott a special coach is, forget about his enthusiasm for the sport and his knowledge of the sport, but really what makes him special is his ability to connect. I mean, how many coaches could talk for 10 minutes in a meaningful way about every athlete on their team? And I really did think, that is his legacy. And it's almost his magic, is his ability to connect with people. Thank you, Scott, for being a role model to all of us coaches, but also I know I say thanks for all the athletes you've had the privilege to work with. Congratulations, Stalls.
Congrats, Stalls.
E.
Congratulations, Stalls. We love you.
Oh, wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm humbled. Thank you, Troy. And I'll be seeing most of those kids and coaches when they return from Malacca. One of the things, and maybe Coach Weinzierl is saying this right now, that I don't know when I invented this, probably in 1990, 91, just prior to the gun going off, I would stand behind the team and I would say, "It's a great day to be a," and they would all yell, "Hawk." I'm telling you today, it's a great day to be a Hawk. I would like to thank Troy, Brenda, the Hall of Fame committee for this great honor. I would also like to thank Dick Unger. His inspiration and his commitment to forming a Hall of Fame here at Chaska High School should be commended. And if you think, and I will try to keep this very brief, but I taught for 35 years and I coached for 36. And I think that when we added all of the seasons with cross-country, hockey, and track, that it's somewhere around 85 or 86 separate teams that I had the opportunity to work with. And yesterday, I know Karen was asking if I truly remembered things from the past, and I do. And I'm fortunate that I can. I'm going to tell you that way back when, I would have to thank Merlin Kinkle, our athletic director at the time, for hiring me. There was a physical education teaching opening at Chaska High School, and it called for a head hockey coach. And Merlin, the Hall of Famer, took a flyer. And I had been a substitute teacher and a long-term sub for about a half a year. and he just said, "Welcome aboard." Well, my knees were shaking. And that first hockey season was one to remember. Now Sam, hockey guy, he probably never had a formal team practice outdoors. Our rink was outdoors. The only thing that we ever played indoor hockey was for a game. And it was cold. And I'm going to tell you a brief story in a minute about hockey because it was a very meaningful part and the very first team that I coached at Chaska. Well, it didn't take long, and by that very first spring that I had been hired, Bob Tadson and Mary Daly brought me into the track program. Bob was the head boys coach and Mary the head girls coach. She had pioneered and started the girls program. And they brought me in as the 9th grade coach. Well, I love 9th graders. They're a little quirky. They don't know, when they come in as 9th graders, they don't know if they're on foot or horseback. They're newbies. But somehow I identified with those 9th grade track kids. And by the very next fall, Bob Tadson said, "You know, I've done my thing with cross country, you're it." So, within the first 2 to 3 years of my entire career, at the ripe old age of 25, I was the head cross country coach, the head hockey coach, and the head boys track coach. I, too, did not know whether I was on foot or horseback. Well, I looked to people and my coaching colleagues for help. And when I was starting to think about preparation for this, I thought, how do you kind of bring all of that together? What does it take? What are the key factors to be a teacher and a coach? And I boiled it down to 2 terms, inspiration and passion. My inspiration came from my own father. He wasn't a teacher. He was a hard worker right out of World War II, and he was a baseball guy. So when I went into Little League Baseball, he waited until I made the team, through tryouts, made the team, and then he became the volunteer coach. Well, that had to happen 3 years in a row when you're 10, 11, and 12. And then the same thing happened when I went into Babe Ruth. And he would wait until I made the team. And then he was the volunteer coach. And his nickname was Smiley. And that was my start. And I didn't realize until years later what a valuable lesson that was. He was saying that if he was the coach, I would automatically have to make the team. He waited. And you know, I used that lesson long after. And then I'm going to tell you something. All of my coaching colleagues at Chaska High School, regardless of sport, became my inspiration. But it was one student athlete that really set the tone for the course of my entire career. Very few people know this. You know how right now we're looking at the Jack Jablonski case at Benilde St. Margaret's? Well, he's an inspiration. And everything that we see through this media about Jack is really cool. Well, I'm going to tell you that on December 4th, 1977, we're playing Lakeville at Burnsville Arena. And in the second period, a second line winger named Steve Bjornsson was checked from behind. In the day, there wasn't even a penalty for it. I suppose it could have been called boarding, but Steve went down. And Steve didn't get up. And 10 weeks in Fairview Southdale, weeks and weeks at Sister Kenny, And Steve never shed a tear. He never felt sorry for himself. And as Coach Crafton and myself tutored him with his homework in the hospital and all of those things, and it taught me, I changed my whole perspective. You know, I was a newbie. I wasn't sure where I was going with my coaching or with my teaching, and that was the inspiration I needed. That was the neatest thing I'd ever seen. It didn't happen on the cross-country course. It didn't happen on the ice. It wasn't on the track. Steve did something very special. So that was my inspiration. And it set forth the next umpteen hundred years that I've been around Chaska High School. And then there was this piece, passion. You've got to be passionate about what you do. And one of our graduates that was featured in the film is probably one of the more proud and passionate graduates of this school, Bob Repke. And Bob sent me a note once, and he said that in his note that he admired my passion. Well, this is the mayor of Chaska. I'm going, wow, this is really cool. But I knew what he meant. And there was a time when we were playing hockey in the bubble. The bubble was always about 10 degrees colder than it was outdoors. And this was a January night, and we were playing our big rival, Shakopee. And it was in the bubble, and the place was packed. It was 5 degrees outdoors and 10 below indoors. I was frozen solid, and there was a hit. And it happened right in front of my eyes, and this Shakopee kid just took out a Chaska player, and there are the Chaska players down. And of course I ran out onto the ice, and there was no penalty. No penalty called. Stoppage of play, kids down. Well, after a few minutes we got him back to the bench, and as I was walking back to the bench, of course I had my gloves on, and I had I'm not going to say an animated conversation with the official, but it was a conversation. And I took those gloves off, and 5 feet before I got back to the boards, I threw those gloves into the bench. Now, I was defending my player, our team, the fairness of the game. The next morning, I was called into the principal's office. Superintendent was there, and I was cited for inciting the crowd. My gosh, they're all nervous in there. Everybody was just trying to stay warm. Well, it was one of those deals where, letter in the file, you're on notice. We don't expect you to exhibit this type of behavior ever again. Bob, where's the passion? I was just passionate about what we were doing and why we were there. And it was just a great experience for me. And so I don't have any words of wisdom other than to tell you that the formula is really quite easy. It's inspiration. Give the kids some inspiration, some knowledge, some training, and an infusion of passion. And they'll do wonderful things. Look, there's two of my former track athletes, Kurt and Karen. How do you do any better than that? Isn't that amazing? Well, I can tell you that we have had just wonderful student athletes. They have been an inspiration to me, just like Steve Bjornson was an inspiration. And then my coaching colleagues, I look around this room, whether we coached together or we coached as Chaska Hawk coaches, well, I've been very fortunate. And yeah, gosh, how Bobby Downs, he's an inspiration to me, and all of his children that competed for the Hawks that I had a chance to be with, and then have Bobby be an all-state pole vaulter and hold our state record. It doesn't get any better than that. I'm proud of each one of you as Hall of Famers, to have a coaching colleague, a teaching colleague, to have this stage with you is just a complete honor. And in summary, I was thinking of a particular line. Most people know that I like the theater and admire the theater, and my wife and I go to a lot of musical theater. And there's a line from a song from the Broadway play Wicked, and it's stuck in my head. And it goes something like, I am who I am today because I knew you. And it just, that's this experience. I am who I am because I knew all of you. And there's another piece to that song about a handprint on your heart. And Chaska High School has left an indelible handprint on my heart. I have been honored to serve. And indeed, it is a great day to be a Hawk. Thank you.
The aggressive beast. My wife said I couldn't use that. She looked at her and she said, "That is the worst thing I have ever seen. How in the world could you get up in front of a group of people and call a young lady an aggressive beast?" It fits. We have to. Karen Ryan, of course, is who we're talking about. Like Curdy Katsonis, I had the chance to be in elementary school with Karen. Got to know her unbelievable family. And then Karen came up, and although she didn't put it in your program, she played basketball. Her sophomore, junior year, she didn't only play basketball, but she, by the time she finished just 2 years, her sophomore and junior year, she was the third all-time leading rebounder in the history of girls basketball at Chaska. After 2 stinking years, she was in the top 10 in steals, and she today holds the record. To this very day, right now, Karen Ryan is #1 in the Chaska High School record books for the most fouls in the single season. Karen Ryan had 85 fouls, which was almost 4 a game. Her junior year, she passed Katie Swanson. But Katie Swanson is the career record holder still. Anyway, Karen is more than an aggressive beast. Karen has a determination, a tenaciousness, a will to win, and I hold Karen responsible for her senior year state championship. We would have been state champs, but she blew out her knee in her last soccer game, missed her entire state senior year. And I think that I can't imagine anything worse than Karen sitting up in the stands, not being able to play. Am I right? Karen is special. I love the tar out of that girl. She will make a great wife, a great mother, because whatever she does in life, she does absolutely with all the zeal you could ever have, and to the best of her ability and with all of her heart. Karen Ryan.
It's funny, Coach Downs was razzing me before at lunch, before lunch, about the fact that basketball's not in here, and he was disappointed, and I said, no, you haven't heard my speech yet. So thank you for your kind words. I very much appreciate that. You know, there's a couple of things that happen in people's lives, and some of them are more life-altering than others, but there's a couple where you're just cruising right along and everything's going great, and then something happens and your trajectory changes. And there's been a couple in my life, and I think one of the most profound at the time was blowing out my knee. Because I had played and probably worked so hard at basketball. Was the hardest sport that I think I worked at. I was always out with my dad, and he put up a basketball hoop on the driveway. We were always out there, horse all the time, and it was camps. I think, I think from 3rd grade on, I was always playing basketball and always at one of Coach Downs' camps, and I always felt like we were going to do something great, and to not get to play my senior year was a really horrible thing. And I think what was also just sort of, it was very hard to watch, and in fact, I only came to a few games because it was very hard. And I always said, boy, I'm going to come back, I'm going to play an alumni game. And I never could because I got my knee fixed. And I was playing basketball, a pickup game as an adult at my gym, and I blew out my knee again. So then I was like, okay, I've had 4 knee surgeries now in my lifetime, and I'm like, I can't pick up and do any more golf sports. But I do hope to catch, well, you're not coaching anymore, right? You're done. So I won't get back to see a game, but hopefully, I used to always think I'm going to go back on Wednesday nights. Remember the Wednesday night games we would have? I'm going to show up, and I'm just going to see Coach Downs and give him a hug. So I apologize, it's taken me 25 years to get back and give you a hug, and thank you for all your kind words. I have to say, and I do have another Coach Downs story that I want to kind of segue into some other comments, just some other quick comments I had. There are a few things that I've learned from my time in sports at Chaska High School that I thank Coach Stallman and Coach Downs for. And one of those is for I took a lot of discipline, and thank you for saying that you saw me as a very disciplined and tough person. I always remember if we showed up late for practice, we had to run backwards laps, particularly on Saturday mornings. And so sometimes in meetings, I'll want people to run backwards laps when they show up late for meetings at work. And I always think of you because you really instilled that in us. I think that what sports here gave me was an ability to use sports for life. I've had my knee problems, I've had my other challenges, but back then, I think it kept me out of the typical high school trouble that a girl can get into. And I think later in life, sports kept me out of, particularly I do a lot of marathoning now, it's helped me with some times of depression and some other life challenges with crazy job and all of that. And it's really become something I can rely on. And I thank you for giving us sort of sport for life. You've given us that. You've given me that gift, and I appreciate that. I do want to also say that you did teach, you talked about passion, and the first word I had written down in my notes was your passion. And it's awesome, your passion, and to what you were also saying, I just want you to know that I took it away and you touched me and I wrote it down, that you were dedicated not just to our achievement, but to us achieving our potential. And the second sort of going along in life, assuming everything's going to go fine, that happened was my daughter Violet was born with Down syndrome. And I think that what you also taught me, what you exhibited there about being able to see potential in an athlete and to see what they can bring, I feel like my daughter Violet I will bring that to her. And I didn't necessarily, I was always out to win the race. And I don't know that I, at times, understood the challenges of those that were in last place. But I think you did, and I think you touched every athlete, and I want to say thank you for that. I think I took something from that, and I plan to use that as I work and get involved in Special Olympics. So thank you for that. I do want to thank my mom and dad. My dad, who was out there always as the man with the stopwatch, helping me with all my getting me here and there. And Mom, you were the driver of coaching. Mom and Dad both have coached in their lifetime. Dad was very involved in my early days of coaching. One fond memory I have, Mom, is our carbo loading nights at the Excelsior Pizza Hut. Thank you for that. My sister's not here, but we run a relay team together that I think just doesn't have the record anymore, but we used to. Yeah, so my sister, that was about the only thing we had in common in high school, and but now she's a dear friend, and I thank her for all of her support. And to my former teammates and classmates, it's just been a pleasure having you in my life. I very much appreciate that. And to my husband, okay, so you beat me in a marathon and a half marathon this year, and that really bums me out, and that's not going to happen again. It's really nice that we can share our love of sport together and that we run. And we met doing triathlon, so again, another thing that sport gave back to me. So I'm very thankful for what Chaska High School helped me to do and helped me to achieve. And I thank you very much for inducting me. Thank you.
Minus. I went to Edina High School. We had a young, a guy in my grade called Jay Bennett. And everything Jay Bennett did was solid gold. He was the quarterback on the football team, the shortstop on the baseball team, starting point guard on the basketball team, first chair trombone in the band, president of the senior class, top 10 student. Today he's a tremendously successful lawyer. He had everything. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Jay Bennett, but his name is Sam Sather. He is our Midas. He is a person that has so many things that, not that he does, but that he does well. It is just disgusting. That one person, if you're a classmate of Mr. Sather's, you're going through and hoping that you can do one thing well, and the girls will notice you. He did everything he touched spectacularly. I can't think of a person for the title of his award more fitting than Mr. Sam Sather. Congratulations.
All right. Well, I'll try to be quick here, and I'll try to make it through, but I get emotional real easily. So we'll see what we can do here. I do want to start off by thanking Troy and Brenda for putting this all together. It's absolutely outstanding that you get to share the stage with these tremendous people up here. And the Hall of Fame, everybody, sorry about that. We'll make it through, right? Everybody on the Hall of Fame board that was able to get this all together as well. I'm extremely humbled by this. My wife would probably beg to differ, and maybe Katie Brown as well. But truly, I am humbled by this recognition, hey Benny, of the CHS Hall of Fame. I was surrounded by music and athletics my entire life. My mom's a piano teacher, church organist. Dad coached hockey, trumpet player. Choirs all over the place, we had band all over the place. My aunt was the violin teacher, so we had lots of violin stuff going on. So Christmas time at the age of 2, it was time for me to start playing the instruments. So I got a violin when I was at the age of 2 and got to take lessons from my aunt. At the age of 5, my mom said, okay, you continue with the violin, but you also get to play the piano now and I'll be your teacher. So I got to play the piano there. And I was able to play hockey then as well. My dad, the coach, starting about the age 6 and going on through there, playing football and baseball and golf. And then we get up to 7th grade. My mom decides she's heavy into big into her church, and my dad's a trumpet player at the church, but they don't have a trombonist. So Sam, it's time for you to pick up a brass instrument, and I think trombone would be perfect. So I got to play the trombone too. And Jim Mason, the 7th grade band director at Highway, this is before we moved out to Chaska, was telling my mom, you know, you can't just pick this instrument up. This won't work, okay? Maybe have him take private lessons for a year, and then we'll get him into the band, and you know, maybe in 8th grade or something like that. Well, I worked my tail off in the summer before 7th grade, and I was able to be in the band and play jazz back there, and then finally in 8th grade I moved out here to Chaska. Before the move, I did not want to go. I had great friends who were in the Mountain View School District, but when we got out here, the teachers are unbelievable here. They're phenomenal. You don't get this group of people in the same district ever. And I've got teachers like Eric Sauer, who I get to teach with now, and Barry Fox, and Jane Fox, and Paul Swanson, and Caroline Swanson. The Jumpers, all these wonderful teachers molding my life and helping me to become the person that I got to become. It's truly unbelievable. Jane Fox still, I graduated from college from Lawrence University, and I've got a job all lined up in Cambridge, Isanti, and she calls me up, she goes, you know, there's an opening at Jonathan Elementary, right? I said, I was not aware. She goes, you put in the application, I'll get you the interview. Let's make this happen. And lo and behold, I've been teaching at Jonathan Elementary School now for 8 years. The community here in Chaska, it's unparalleled. Wherever you go, this is such a wonderful place. And I'm so glad that I get to be a part of this tradition, where I get to coach still, and be a part of the community functions, and go to football games and see all my kids running around from school, and past students who I try to remember their name and they say, it starts with a K. And then the people behind are going like, and I'm like, YMCA right now? What? I don't know. Okay, Caleb. I bet your name's Caleb. Yes, how did you remember? I said, I don't know. I do want to thank some people right now. We'll start off with my coaches. I've been blessed to have great coaches in hockey and in football and in golf. Coach Schneider was an outstanding coach for me. Dan Snaza for football. I've been lucky enough to work with Troy Stein and Dick Unger. Dave Snugrud as my hockey coach, and funny story about Dave Snugrud, he also fostered my musicianship, we'll say. And it's senior night, we're playing Jefferson, and he thinks, you know what, you should play the national anthem on your violin right in the middle of the rink. And I go, oh, this is a great idea. Not thinking of the ramifications of playing Jefferson, what the first shift might entail. So here I am, full gear, shoulder pads are on, violin sticking way up here, I'm playing the national anthem, we get done, thunderous applause, everybody's ready, so let's go Hawks. And first shift, I just get crushed. Just murdered up there. And Satan goes, you did a great job with the national anthem, now go see the trainer. He was great, and he was able to, I saw him at a hockey game right after graduation. He said, you know what, I'd love to have you on staff. So I was able to start coaching right after graduation. And I get to coach with great people like Chris Wilson and formerly Steve Ollinger. I had so many teachers also that touched my life that were absolutely amazing. Claudette and Manny Loriano through the Minnesota Youth Symphonies program, Eric Songer, Shelley Klein, Jane and Barry Fox, Chad and Miriam Junker, Paul and Caroline Swanson, Jim Lund with the theater program, and of course my Aunt Mary and my mom for my private lessons. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my families. I've got a lot of people here, and I'm pumped up about it. I get so much support from them and from my friends. And when I was growing up, it was
family, and getting me to and from all these activities so I had a chance to do all these things. Sarah, you're awesome. And if I expound on that much more, I'll need some more Kleenex. You are my rock, and I appreciate all the time you let me give to others while I'm coaching and teaching and all these other things that I get to do. And my parents, Mom and Dad, I was lucky to have you guys. You never pushed me into anything, but you always provided me with great opportunities and let me determine if I was going to be able to be successful or not. You're absolutely unbelievable. I was so lucky, and still I'm lucky. I thank you so much for this time here together. My eyes are maybe going to dry up here at some point. I appreciate it. This has been great. Thank you so much.
The last couple of words I have are, first of all, for you people. I see community people that I don't think know these people very well. They aren't coming here specifically to congratulate and to honor someone. They're coming here because they're from Chaska. They're the heart and soul of what makes each of us so proud to be able to say not only that we're a Hawk, but we're from a little different piece of Americana that not very many people have ever been able to taste. Guys, we have tens of thousands of graduates from Chaska. Tens of thousands of people, including educators, who are eligible for this award. The committee chose 6. I said at the beginning, they got it right. We're so proud of all 6 of you, and when you heard all 6 of them talk, they didn't talk about themselves. They talked about everybody else. They talked about their families. They talked about you. And if there's a model for any youngster growing up and wishing to attain something, I wish they could have been here tonight to see what does make greatness. People like this. Congratulations and thank you for attending.